Hello, welcome to the AJ Review Show, Episode 9. Episode 9, 9 divided by 3. You see where this is going? Another 3 films. 3 enjoyable films for very different reasons. I like to try and bring a variety of themes and ideas to these proceedings. And these are 3 very, very different films. We have a horror film, a thriller that's incredibly confusing, and a very good action film. So 3, like I say, very, very different films, but all of them enjoyable for different reasons, and all of them have different audiences. So I'm sure there's going to be something in here just for you that you're gonna love. So let's get straight into it with the first film.
What's the difference between dressy casual and business casual?
Both mean leave your cargo shorts and flip-flops at home.
I don't own cargo shorts. I don't own flip-flops. Anything else?
Don't wear your black suit. It makes you look like a mortician.
So, The Accountant 2, the follow-up to the first Accountant film, if you would believe that. I really like the first Accountant film. My memory of it was actually pretty hazy, unfortunately, going into this, so I couldn't really... I remember the bare bones of it, but I couldn't remember the exact plot or what was really happening. So this is directed by David O'Connor, who also directed the first Accountant film. He also did Warrior with Tom Hardy, which is a very, very famous and well-known MMA film. The Way Back, also starring Ben Affleck. So they've worked together quite a few times now. I actually really like when directors sort of work with the same cast over and over again, because you can really tell in the performances that they know what they can expect from one another, and I think it adds to the film a lot. Obviously, Ben Affleck in the film you'll know from Batman vs Superman, Good Will Hunting, and Gone Girl. He's had an incredibly varied career. There's a really great YouTube video on it, how Ben Affleck's career and sort of his mental state of mind has fluctuated so much throughout his career. You know, there's been times where he's ballooned up in weight and lost it again, got in really good shape and lost it. So he's won 2 Oscars, which I thought he'd only won 1. So one of them he got for co-writing Good Will Hunting with Matt Damon. If you didn't know, those 2 are basically inseparable. And he also he directed the Best Picture Argo. Actually, very good film. Slightly surprised it won Best Picture that year, but, he's a very talented actor. Him alongside Matt Damon, there's basically not a film alive I wouldn't watch. There's a really funny Super Bowl advert with the 2 of them as well. So Ben Affleck, you're not really going to go wrong. You've also got Jon Bernthal in the mix. Spoke about him only a couple of weeks ago. So The Walking Dead, Punisher, Fury. Again, I spoke about this when I spoke about it last week. Fury is a fantastic film. And The Amateur, which was, he was in with Rami Malek. Very good career so far. He's also in The Wolf of Wall Street. Very good career so far. I really like watching Jon Bernthal. The only thing that I think might be a bit of a shame, I wonder if he thinks it himself, is that he's typecast now. He is the angry lunatic in everything he does. Obviously, literally every film, Walking Dead, lunatic, Punisher, lunatic, Fury, amateur, everything he's in, he's like the tough guy in, and I would really like to see him in a different role. Obviously, John, if you're listening, please reach out. I'm sure we can figure something out. But I would love to see him do something else, something more serious that gets show off more of his acting, because I think he's actually a very good actor, and I'd like to see more of it, and I think he could quite easily get nominated for something. He's a good actor, and he's good in this as well. He's also been cast in The Odyssey, the new Chris Nolan film that's been shooting out in Greece, alongside Matt Damon, and Matt Damon was also a producer for The Accountant 2, as was Ben Affleck. So there's crossover everywhere. Like I said the other week, the more you look into film, the more crossovers you find. And then you have Daniela Pineda, who was in Cowboy Bebop, Plane, and Jurassic World. You might recognise her, you might not, but they sort of make up the main cast of the film. I'll give you a little rundown of what the film what you're looking at. So I would really highly recommend you watch the first one, because you won't be entirely lost, but there are 2 or 3 things in the film that, having not had the clearest memory on it, I wish I would have rewatched it. Like J.K. Simmons' character, I was a little bit lost on who he was. The sort of Ben Affleck's character has this like eye in the sky who sort of hacks for him and helps him out with the sort of technological side of things. And I'd kind of forgotten about that and stuff like that. So I would really recommend you watch the first one. But if you did just want to watch this, you can, it still works very well just as an action film, as it's just very enjoyable, There's plenty of good action in it. Anyway, we're going to get into the review. But basically, the idea of the film is that he is an accountant for the mob, for the mafia, for whoever wants it. He's really good with numbers. And he basically gets roped into the more violent side of sorting things out for them as well. And that's where the first film sort of sets up. And then the second film takes over from there. He is brought in to do a job. I would actually say the one thing that I was sort of missing in the film was that in The Accountant there is actually quite a lot of numbers stuff. Like, it shows that he is an accountant for the mob, whereas this film, it was more sort of like he's a detective and there's action to it. So the film sort of changes between the two. It's still very good, obviously. I wasn't sure if the same director had directed both of them, but obviously he has. But it felt like quite a different take. A good take, but it felt less like The Accountant and more like The Worker. Do you know what I mean? It felt more like a James Bond sort of film.
Does that make you nervous?
You're an escaped convict, trained by mob accountants. Your clients are drug cartels, money launderers.
Is that a yes?
I did see a review that said it's like Rain Man with a gun. If you haven't seen Rain Man, it's a fantastic film with Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. One of my absolute all-time favourites, where Dustin Hoffman plays a grown-up who lives in a facility who has some kind of like mental disability but is also incredibly intelligent. And if you didn't know, Ben Affleck's character in this also has some kind of mental handicap. I think it's supposed to be some form of autism, and it allows him to be incredible with numbers and remembering things. So it's more showed off in the first film, I think. It's still like a really prominent theme in this one, but I felt the first film sort of showed it off and lent into a little bit more. But if you've seen Rain Man with a Gun is a very, very apt review of this. So he gets brought into this. He brings in John Bernthal's character slightly later on in the film, but you get loads of screen time with the two of them. And actually, the performances together and the romance, the bromance that gets built between the two of them it was probably the thing I enjoyed the most about the film. I really, really enjoyed the sort of the relationship that gets built between them and how they know each other and everything like that. Like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything, but the relationship between the two of them is probably the best bit of the film. It's very, very funny, and a lot of the humour in the film comes from that. There's a really good scene in a bar where they have like a bar fight and they do some line dancing that was just really, really funny and really creative. So all the positives of the film, like I said, good bits of acting from both the lead men. I think Affleck's acting was a little bit iffy at times. I imagine it's very difficult to portray someone with some sort of, mental handicap or something like that. So I imagine it's quite difficult for him at times, but his performance is good, but I did feel it strayed a little bit. I actually think his performance in the first one is better to my memory. John Bernthal, like I've already said, I would like to see him in something else other than this, but he does play a lunatic very well. The typecast is there for a reason. He does do a very good job of it.
I need to know who Ray King was meeting with.
Let me do the talking. You see him more than I thought.
It's a very fun film to watch. It's like the first one. I really like action films, especially when they're not too, kind of like The Amateur. It's not too simple. It's not too complicated. The only thing is, with it being an action film, there wasn't enough action. There was sort of 3-4 fights, and I remember there being a lot more action in the first one. I wish they'd given us a little bit more. I wanted to see a fight between Affleck and Bernthal, which unfortunately you don't get, but I really felt they could have done it quite easily. I think that would have been a really, really cool fight. It's quite well written. There's not too much exposition or unnecessary talking. I think I enjoyed the script, actually, especially like what you get between those two. Like I said, they really do lead the film, and the sort of the few side characters around it, but the writing's actually pretty good. I did enjoy it. There is one big problem in the film, and well, there's a couple of issues. One of the issues is without the sort of the eye in the sky. So the two characters is Christian and Brax. So Christian is Ben Affleck's character and Brax is John Bernthal's character. Without Christian's eye in the sky, without the woman that he speaks to, the film wouldn't really be able to go as far as it does, without his sort of cue, his iron side. Obviously, that's understandable, but I don't know how far the film would go if you took that element out of it. Which, I mean, I suppose it just means it's an integral part, which it is. It's just, it's not very Bondy in that sense, James Bond could probably get through it anyway, but The Accountant couldn't. Like I said, there wasn't enough action in the film, which really disappointed me, and it's needlessly complicated for a relatively simple plot. So the plot, like I said, I'm not going to spoil anything, but he's brought in to do a job that he doesn't really have any idea about, and he brings like some help in and all the rest of it. The plot is relatively at A to B. It does zigzag you around a little bit, but it's a relatively simple plot. And there was a lot going on that only really gets explained at the end, or you have to sort of, I don't know, think quite hard about, I guess. Or I had to think quite hard about, maybe you won't. but there was quite a lot of stuff that was left quite ambiguous. Some really cool stuff that gets explained, but I think it was needlessly complicated. And there's a few scenes when they're doing detective work where the links are a bit tenuous, and I don't know. I think they could have done a slightly better job of explaining things throughout the film. It's got a good soundtrack to it, actually. There's quite a few scenes where they're driving in a big truck. It's a good soundtrack. I like the way the story progresses as well. It doesn't hang around for too long. It's a fun story. It's an enjoyable film. The music's actually is only slightly offbeat in one scene. I'm not a huge fan of when they play like classical music over a fight scene. I think it's cool sometimes, but I think it's a little bit overplayed. And that does happen in this film. But the music's good. It's good action. But there just isn't enough of it. The relationship building's really good, and I would be very surprised if we don't get a third one because of it. If you've seen it, you'll know what I mean. But it doesn't set up for a third film directly, but I would quite happily watch the third one. I think they're well made. Obviously, there's a huge amount of support for them in Ben Affleck and Matt Damon. So I really enjoyed watching it. It engrossed me, and it's a good action film. I enjoyed it a lot. It's 4 stars for enjoyment, but overall it's 3 stars. And that's The Accountant 2.
Your head, good for you. Let's get ourselves killed.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
And on to our next film.
I'm looking for my sister. Does she look familiar to you?
She's gone missing.
I didn't say that. Do a lot of people go missing around here?
So what you've just seen there was Until Dawn. Until Dawn is adapted from a game that came out years ago. I think it might have been like 2016, 2017 or something like that. Game that came out a long time ago, won a lot of awards. It was an incredibly popular horror game. I watched it all the way through. Shout out to, I think it was Syndicate actually that I watched play it all. So shout out to Syndicate. Honestly, it was one of the coolest games I've ever watched. The idea of the game is that the decisions you make all have consequences. It was the first time I was ever introduced to the concept of a butterfly effect. And the original idea of a butterfly effect is like, if a butterfly flaps its wings 2,000 miles away, the pressure of it like beating its wings could cause a tornado here. That's the concept. Like even things that seem little will have some impact. It's called the butterfly effect, right? So that's what the game is based off of. One thing that I really loved that in the game introduced before one of the first times, especially like on the PS4, that times you had to hold the controller perfectly still, or you had to like spam click buttons or hold something down for a perfect amount of time, like different things you had to do with the controller. And they actually managed to introduce it into the film. Obviously there isn't bits where it says like hold still, but there are moments that if you've seen the game or played it, you would know that that's what they're implying, that it's a moment where someone's like had to freeze up. So it was really cool. It's a really good adaptation of the game. I was confused that it's not the original story from the game. It all links together nicely. I did really enjoy it. So David S. Sandberg is the director. He did Lights Out. He did both of the Shazam films, both Shazam 1 and 2. The first Shazam's really good. I didn't see the second one because it didn't look very good. But the first Shazam is very good. Lights Out is a good horror film. Very jumpy, scary film. And he really brought that in this film. He really went to town on the jump scares. And they work throughout the whole film. I would say there's one really bad jump scare. But pretty much every jump scare was getting me. It built suspense really nicely. The idea of the film is... Oh no, I'll tell you who else is in it. I'll tell you who else is in it first. So Ella Rubin, The Idea of You, Fear Street Prom Queen, and Honora. Honora we spoke about a few weeks ago. She's one of the other girls that works in the strip club, I'm pretty sure. Peter Stormare, also, he's in the game. You'll definitely recognise him. It was really cool because in the game, he's like a voice and his character, like exactly what he looks like is in the game. So it was really cool that he was in it. And he's been in Fargo, Prison Break, and John Wick 2. I had a look through the rest of the cast. There's no one else. Maya Mitchell, Belmont Cameli, Willem van der, Odessa Azion, Michael Cimino, and Ji Young-yu. Ji Young-yu plays Megan. She's been cast in Freaky Tales, which is something that I've spoken about on the channel as well. I think Odessa Azion, who plays Nina in the film, is probably the best side character. She's the one I like the most. But it's a relatively big cast, but the whole story just does revolve around them. So you get to know them well. All the characters have their own motivations for doing what they were doing and their own sort of... I don't want to spoil the film, and it's going to be quite difficult not to spoil it, but the situation they get put into and the concept, everyone has their own intentions and ideas for what should be done. And it is cool, you do get to see every side of the character. So the cast is actually quite strong, though they're not, they've never been in massively high profile things, but it's a very well put together cast, and the chemistry between them, like they're old friends and some of them aren't old friends, it does work very well on the screen. Like I said, it's a very jumpy film. It works well as a scary film and as a horror film. Not all films work as scary films, not all films work as horrors, but I think this worked really well as both. It built the tension well, and it kept you guessing. The idea, like I said, I'm going to try not to spoil this, but the idea could get repetitive very quickly, but the way they keep mixing it up and throwing you into new situations keeps the film really fresh and allows you to sort of keep getting scared. There's a compilation point at one point where they find like a video and they watch the video, and you get like a short compilation, a short couple of videos that are really, really spooky, sort of Blair Witchy, like they found the tape sort of idea. So the scary aspect of this worked really well. It is spooky, it builds tension. I would say I didn't really know what was going to happen. I think for a lot of the film I thought it was actually going to end quite badly, because having seen the game, in the game there are several different ways. Everyone can live, everyone can die, some people can live, some people can die. So I wasn't actually sure if they were just going to like kill everyone off at one point. So it keeps you guessing. It works really well.
Where's my car?
Where's Megan?
I always think it's a tough job, when the cast in a horror film are reacting to CGI. I mean, there's some stuff in here that was obviously only CGI, and I think they do a really good job of showing what appears to look like, like genuine acted out fear. So no, they do really well on that front. There was a couple of concepts I wish I'd gone into a little bit more, where the story is that this group of friends get together, and one of the friends' sister went missing where they're going, and they want to go up there and sort of like, I don't know, I think it's like a cleansing thing, but also the sister wants to try and find her. So they drive and they drive through this like terrible rain, and they get to it's like a visitor centre, and there's like a perfect circle all around them where there's no rain, there's a visitor centre and all the rest of it. And weird stuff starts to go on from there, but that's sort of the basic idea. And in the rain, there's some really, really creepy stuff, but you only see it for like 5 to 10 seconds. Like whatever you saw in the trailer of it, there's something really specific I'm talking about, you only see once, which I thought was a real shame. The idea of something hiding in the rain in the dark is something that everyone's scared of. So I wish they kind of gone into that a little bit more. But the compilation you see gives you a few extra tastes of ideas and concepts that they had that maybe they just didn't have time to run into. So, but it works really, really well. There probably isn't a whole lot of rewatchability about the film, unfortunately, because the film is so predicated and balanced on its jump scares, on the fact that it is about building tension and being scary. I don't know how much you could rewatch it. It's definitely not in a short period of time. But if you could sort of get over the fact that it's scary in the first instance, I don't know how much you would enjoy rewatching it. But as a first watch, I really, really did like it. The cast is surprisingly sensible for a horror film. They start to notice that crazy stuff is happening, and they're like, okay, well, let's just like board up one room and wait it out sort of thing. So they're quite sensible as a cast, which is nice, because in a lot of horror films, they have to paint it out like everyone's, the sort of dumb blonde stereotype, and no one can think for themselves. Everyone has to trip over when they're running. They don't play into too many of the sort of horror tropes that you would normally get, and it did make for quite a sort of refreshing idea. The writing is a little bit lazy at times, unfortunately, and I had one real problem with the film, that one thing seemed to happen at the same time always, and the whole idea was kind of predicated on chance, that this thing would just like sort of happen at the same time over and over again. And it just, I don't know, I like the idea of it, but actually how it would work in the real world or whatever the way they set up didn't really make any sense to me. Too many things left slightly ambiguous or unexplained. I really struggled to sort of understand and justify to myself, oh no, this happened because of this and that was the way because of that. But nothing's really explained in that sense. I think we are going to get a second one, so maybe we'll get slightly more explanation about it. But the concept they pick, though, it's really interesting. There's not a lot of explaining why it happens or anything deeper about it, which is a real shame. Like I said, I would watch another one. You should definitely stay till after the credits roll because it gives you a cool little teaser. If you've seen the game, you're going to love what they show you in the end credits. It's a good film. It's scary, but if it didn't have its jump scares, I don't really know how good it would be. It does build tension well, and it is plenty creepy, but I think they probably could have explained things slightly better, and the writing could have been the speech between them and just the writing in general could have explained things slightly better. I did enjoy it. It was creepy, but I'm going to give it 3 stars overall. Works well. It's a scary film, and that's Until Dawn.
What is that?
Let's get it now.
I'm just gonna grab it. Don't move.
Yeah. Oh, what? Is it gone?
Yeah, it's gone.
What? It's still in my face!
On to our final film.
You can't stop a wave. Born in a storm, way out to sea. Pure energy. And it's all building to this breaking point.
So that was The Surfer. Came out in 2024, so this really annoyed me straight away. It came out in 2024, but we got like a very late release of it, which is really annoying. It's an hour and 43 minutes long. I watched it as part of a Scream Unseen. If you don't know what those are, it's a Screen Unseen, which is something that Odeon does where they show you a film, you don't know what it is, and you just go because apparently it's good or it's gonna be good or whatever. And a Scream Unseen is basically that, but with a horror film. I went to see Terrifier 3. That was the only one of the other Scream Unseens I've been to, so it was good. I had no idea what The Surfer was. I suspect because it had actually come out a year ago, all the trailers or anything that I would have seen or have seen, I'd either forgotten or I just genuinely hadn't seen anything of it. So it was really cool to see something this different and that I had no idea going in for. Actually, another Screen Unseen I'd done was for Companion. Had no idea what that was about either. So there is something wonderful about going to see a film you have no idea about because it does leave your imagination to run and you don't know anything that's going to happen in the film. So it does really add to it. The Surfer is an odd film. It was directed by Lorcan Finnegan, Nocebo, Vivarium and Foxes. I haven't seen any of his other work, unfortunately. Nicolas Cage. Everyone bloody knows Nicolas Cage. Longlegs, National Treasure and The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Known for his overacting, I would say. And he doesn't disappoint in this. You've got Julian McMahon. I kept looking at his face in the film. I was like, I recognise you. Where do I recognise you from? Here it is. He's Doctor Doom in the original Fantastic Four. I genuinely, it's only when I was doing the research for this that I looked at his face and got it just before I looked at what films he's in. Yeah, so that was weird seeing him in something else. But he plays it really well. He's got a very sort of friendly, handsome face, but is also quite scary in a way. He's actually a really good bit of casting. So in the film, he is the bad guy. Nicolas Cage is the good guy. He plays the bad guy really, really well. The rough idea of the film is that Nicolas Cage wants to take his son, played by Finn Little, to this beach, and they want to surf. That is honestly the whole premise of the film. They want to take to the beach and surf. They go down to the beach, and this group of very territorial, I can't think there's a word they use, but there's a group of very territorial surfers who live around the bay, who don't let anyone else surf their break. They don't let anyone else surf their wave. It's made me a little bit scared of Australian surfers, to be honest with you, first of all. But I liked the idea of it. I thought it was quite a cool thing that, like, it's a very culty thing that they have portrayed these surfers as. You know, like it's ours, it's no one else's. You can't come anywhere near it. Like it's sacred almost. So an interesting concept that a beach would be so sort of sought after and fought over.
You don't belong here anymore.
It's a super, super strange film. the film doesn't really get any less strange after you see the opening bit where they don't want to let him surf. It messes with your perception of what's really happening in reality, what has happened, what is happening, what's from the past. It is the only thing about the film that really sort of confused me was that it does jump around time frames a lot. And there was quite a few moments where I was like, do you know, I'm not actually sure if what I'm watching has already happened and it's a flashback, or if it's a metaphor for something that's going on currently. So it's a bit needlessly complicated. It's an hour and 43 minutes. Most of it does get explained, but I think there is probably metaphors and symbolism that they either gave up on halfway through making, or they just didn't want to explain. But it's a good film, it's just a little bit complicated.
Men are like engines. You've got to release a little steam now and then, or you'll blow up.
Nick Cage really overacts. I think he overacts in quite a lot of the stuff he does. He's very in your face with his acting style. But it's fun, and for the role he plays in this, which is basically a guy who's like slowly losing his mind because all he wants to do is surf. It is a good fit. It is a good fit for him. It's a good bit of casting to get Nicolas Cage in a role that overacting and being outrageous in what he's doing. It does work really well. Another part of the film is that he wants to buy a house on the beach as well because he used to live there. His dad used to live there, and they used to surf together. So there's some themes of grief in the film and greed as well. Like, you know, sometimes it's better to let it go, how greed can sort of suffocate you and things like that. So it does speak a little bit about, I don't know, the corporate world and things like that. I really enjoyed it. I like what it was saying about grief. But like I said, the line between grief and what was really going on in the past and sort of flashbacks gets blurred a little bit too much. Maybe you're supposed to come out and be a little bit confused about what you've really just seen. So if it is, it works well. But if not, then they really should have cleared it up a little bit. His son, Finn, in the film has quite little to do with the actual film itself. He comes into it slightly more towards the end, but he doesn't have a whole lot to do with the film. I didn't really find their relationship particularly believable, unfortunately. They don't get enough on-screen time for you to really get a feel for what their relationship is like. I get the sort of brief impressions he has on the phone call with his ex-wife that he's all been about business for a really long time, and he doesn't really care that much about the kid or her, so... But you don't get enough time for that relationship to really build or blossom. Like I said, I like how it messed with your head. The sort of ideas of peer pressure in there as well, which was interesting. The way it alters your reality. Like I said, it could do with more explaining, really. The ending's cool, which I really appreciate. I was worried that it was going to be a bit of a letdown. The film spends a lot of time building tension about what's happened and what you think's going to happen, and there's a kind of a reveal, but it's pretty it's very flat. It doesn't feel like a proper, oh wow, like that was a big moment. It just sort of like, oh, okay. But the ending's cool. The ending amps it up a little bit. It's a satisfying ending, but they do give you the answers that you want. It's just, I felt they could have done it a bit more explosively, and they could have brought out the last sequence to be a little bit longer than it was, because most of the film is building tension around, is he crazy, is he not, what's going on, what isn't.
That's my board, and I want it back.
Listen, mate, I think you've been out in the sun too long.
No, my father gave me that board.
I can tell you myself, that old board's been up there for as long as I can remember.
She's a beaut, isn't she?
If you like films that are a little bit mind-boggling, if you like Nick Cage being crazy, if you enjoy sort of mystery in films, then this is a good film for you. I liken it sort of to like a prequel or a sequel to Shutter Island. Obviously, there's no actual real connection there, but the idea of Shutter Island is this guy going crazy, is he not? And it's very similar in this. I would say Shutter Island does it with a lot more elegance, but it's an enjoyable film. It's different. I like watching different films. I don't like to just watch sort of the regurgitated slop, but it's an interesting film. The way they portray surfers is really cool, and the sort of the cult world around it, the beach and everything. Some really nice shots in the film, actually. There's a really cool shot of Nicolas Cage walking, and you can see his shoes and his shadow, and it looks like the shadow's wearing the shoes. There's some really cool shots in it. A couple of interesting little bits of music. The plot moves along quite nicely, and there is a few sort of funny little details that like eventually come back round. So it was quite well written. I did enjoy it. I just wish that the relationships had been a little bit built on more, and that things were explained a little bit better or a bit more eloquently. Nicely shot, good cinematography. It's intriguing. It was pretty engulfing to watch. Like I said, I watched it in the cinema. I did enjoy watching it. I just came out quite confused, and I think pretty much everyone else did as well. You just got to ride the wave, I guess. I'm going to give this film 2 stars. I enjoyed it. I would teeter on 3. I just felt it didn't do enough of what it set out to do to warrant giving it higher. I would recommend you watch it, though, which is a weird thing because it is an interesting idea, and the reality they set it in is fun to watch, but I'm going to give this film 2 stars. And that's The Surfer.
That's a good one.
Well, there we have it. Another episode done. Episode 9. We're about to break double digits very soon. It has been really interesting watching these films, actually. I completely forgot that Until Dawn was even coming out as a film, so it was really cool to see that. The Surfer is just absolutely bonkers, and The Accountant 2 is a really, really good action film. But I would say watch the first Accountant before you watch the second one. You could probably enjoy Until Dawn if you hadn't seen the game, because like I said, it's not really based off the game's story, just sort of a similar concept. And The Surfer, I would say most people would probably get some enjoyment out of. You just kind of like, you have to really stick with it though, because you could get lost quite easily. And that's the end of episode 9. Thank you so much for watching this episode. It means a real lot. And that's the AJ Review Show. Hi guys, if you enjoyed watching, please drop me a subscribe down below. Leave a like and a comment. If you look up AJ Reviews 101 on Instagram, drop me a follow on there. And the letterbox is just the same. That's where I leave all my longer reviews. Thank you very much for watching.